The Bulls and Bears this week, including Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, and John Layfield, along with Hadley Heath Manning and Chuck Rocha. Welcome to everybody. Gary B., you say the tax cuts will help the GOP in those midterms.
Absolutely. Anytime people feel richer out there, they have more money in their pocket, their job prospects are more, it helps the party that currently holds Congress. It helps the presidency. Look, I'm firmly convinced that most people out there have been brainwashed by the mainstream media that this is a corporate-only tax cut. They won't see a dime. That's untrue. The Tax Foundation has run scenario after scenario where the average person is going to get back $2,000, $3,000. That's going to help a great deal. Not to mention out there, once the money is in the people's pockets versus the government, in the history of mankind, no one can say, I wish the government had the money. They spent it a lot better than I did. Every tax cut we've seen, all the way back to, my gosh, Calvin Coolidge, for crying out loud, has been beneficial for this country. This one will do the same.
John, stocks on a record-breaking run. The S&P 500 has had its best post-war bull market ever. It's more than quadrupled. And, of course, much of that was under President Obama. But it's still going strong. We created more than 2 million jobs in this country last year. Does that help the GOP in November?
Absolutely. Like 7 straight years, which a lot of those 6 years were under President Obama, of 2 million jobs plus. I mean, this economy continues to roar. And Gary B. is right about two things. The left right now is talking from emotion. They're not talking from facts. When you don't have facts, you argue with emotion. The rich are getting richer. The guy in the corner office is getting all the tax breaks. Truth is, small businesses are going to get these tax breaks, and they're going to spend that money on jobs. The other thing that Gary B. is right about also is this is going to benefit the GOP. I'm not a fan of the GOP. I don't think they can win an inter-squad scrimmage, but they don't have to be great. They just have to be better than the other side, and I think they are better than the other side. They got the tax cut passed. Looks like they're going to get infrastructure passed. You have a lot of people in blue states, a lot of Democrats that are on the council for the infrastructure bill. Looks like they'll get that passed well. People vote with their pocketbook. I think that favors the GOP.
Hadley, and you already have more than 100 companies stepping up to give this money from this tax cut to the workers, whether it's AT&T, Verizon, you name it. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who will get bonuses or feel this in some other way.
That's right. They're sharing the success. And anybody who said during the months-long debate over tax reform that this bill was only going to help the 1%, it was only going to help corporations, they've been proven wrong. They should lose a lot of credibility for that. I don't think that will happen because in politics, people believe what they want to believe. But ultimately, a strong economy never hurts for the incumbent party, and Republicans are in a much better position now having passed that package.
Chuck, this is what you do for a living, but the Democrats have really worked themselves into a corner where Nancy Pelosi is calling this tax reform Armageddon and the end of the world. And basically, anything that helps a business that employs your mama or your daddy or your cousin or your brother or sister is bad. And I do not think that that resonates with voters.
Well, let me tell you what resonates. Now, let me get all y'all set back for a minute. I'm going to try to talk as slow as I can. A big stock market don't mean you're going to win elections. Now, for all you folks back in East Texas, I'm going to say this even slower where I'm from, is that under Barack Obama, the stock market literally doubled. It doubled. And we created 11 million new jobs under Barack Obama. And as a Democrat, I will admit, we lost 61 seats in the Congress. So an inflated stock market and even the economy doing relatively good don't always ensure that you're going to have victories. The smartest thing they could do at this retreat, if they want to win midterm elections, is take his phone away from Donald Trump and somebody step on it.
But Jonas, I will argue that that was part of the problem during the Obama administration is that they talked down the economy. There wasn't enough talk. And it's not just the stock market, Chuck. It's also an economy that is growing at a 3% rate, likely for the third quarter in a row. Jonas?
Well, I recall a lot of talking down of the economy under Obama as well. I will say, look, I don't think it's such a slam dunk for the midterms. It's going to be tight. It's already tight. It's already It would be nice if these companies paid out these $1,000 bonuses right before the elections. That would be timed better, because I think it would remind people that trickle down actually exists, as does trickle up. And I think ultimately who's going to win, who's the better messenger of selling trickle down versus trickle up economics? I think Pelosi is not a very good salesperson, among other Democrats, of selling that, well, you could have got a tax cut and you would spend money and then the companies would make money too. You don't have to give them a tax cut. They give you some trinket while they earn, years and years of corporate tax cuts. That's the pitch that probably maybe a Bernie Sanders, if he was younger, could sell. I think it does show people that, oh yeah, I got something in this. It wasn't what I was told. It wasn't all for corporate America. Personally, I think we needed a corporate tax structure to resemble the rest of the world, so it doesn't matter where the money's flowing. It was a requirement. But that said, it could go either way in an election, definitely.
But Gary B., so 80%, you were talking about this, 80% of Americans are going to get a tax cut with this. However, why do Democrats think that cutting taxes for corporations that keep jobs here, that bring more jobs to the country? People in this country are smart enough to know that if my employer is healthy and financially sound, that's good for me and my family.
Exactly. Well, Dagen, as we well know, the left is reflexively against big business, because what they do is they equate big business to, they think it's that guy on the Monopoly board walking around with the top hat and the cane, and they're all billionaires. And so they like to always pit us against them. In fact, it's not. It's people like Chuck out there who are going to probably get money back. And I would ask Chuck directly, would you rather, Chuck, have $1,000 in your pocket, or would you rather that $1,000 be put in the government's pocket? I think I know the answer to that, and then I think I know who Chuck would support for putting that $1,000 back in his pocket.
Chuck's always for putting some money in Chuck's pocket, because Chuck likes to go fishing. Let me be clear.
There you go.
One thing I want to add, though, Hadley, which could be a headwind for the Republicans come November, is not dealing with Obamacare, because you got rid of the individual mandate in the tax reform bill. That's going to be a looming problem. Whether they can get their arms around it remains to be seen.
Exactly. And, to Jonas's point, what happens right before midterm elections? Open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act exchanges happens every fall. And every fall, consumers are reminded what their health insurance premiums are going to be. And for the past several years, we've seen premium increases year over year in the double digits. And so now that Republicans have the reins of control in Congress and the White House, if they fail to address this issue in a meaningful way, and I do believe that repealing the individual mandate or eliminating that penalty associated with it, that's a big step in the right direction, but that should be the starting point for reform. It is certainly not the finish line.
John, final word to you.
Look, the Republicans got one thing done. It was the right thing they got done, but they all had both sides of Congress, and they had the White House. We're electing the least worst right now coming up in the midterms. And to Chuck's point, I think people were upset about the fact they had a Clinton and a Bush in the White House since 1980, and they wanted a change. And I think they want a continued change against incumbents, but you got to pick one of the two. And right now, with the tax cut going forward, if you have an infrastructure bill, looks like the GOP will be the one that benefits from that.
Yeah, and you've got Nancy Pelosi walking around with her tax cuts equal apocalypse sign, so maybe that works for the Democrats. Thanks, guys, and